Let me explain something. The Chinese teach their people something very young. It's called the 100 Years of Shame. Now, you'll never hear your so-called scholars talk about this. Understand, Uncle D is the first one putting you on game. The Chinese people teach their children, their young people, something called the 100 Years of Shame. The 100 Years of Shame is the period in which they say, right, and they teach, and they believe this to their core, that China should be ashamed of itself, because in this 100 years, China worked to the benefit of other groups and against the benefit of the Chinese. And they teach their children that this should never, ever, ever, ever happen again. That at no point ever should China accept the ways of other people over their own. That no way should the Chinese people ever allow their nation to work better for other people, all while doing harm to their own citizens. This is why China has risen in the last 70 years the way it's risen. Peacefully, intact, culturally as solid as a nation has ever been in the history of the world. So the idea that somehow beating up black people in the street, executing people on camera, over-sentencing people, continuing to purport and produce racist ideology, continuing to have a system that puts profits for businesses over people, continuing this whole idea that white people are right and white people are the default, and that white supremacy and Western ideology is to be the main course meal for everybody on the planet. Continuing to promote this is only speeding up the decline of this nation. So I'm trying to figure out what your motive is. Like, what is it that you are doing? Because you are not helping yourself in the eyes of the world. There are only 300 million Americans. There are 7 billion other people on this planet. So I don't understand what you think, the end goal is going to be here. The problem is not black people. The problem is not folks haven't been willing to accept these old oligarchical, in my opinion, just old, ancient, outdated ways of thinking and living that other nations wholly reject now. They're not fucking with us, right? In the eyes of most people around this world, America is seen as a rogue state. So explain to me what the end goal is here, man. I'm just trying to get clear. I'm constantly in study, constantly in research. I understand the dynamics that we're facing economically. But how are we going to change them when you don't have a clear view or vision of what the world looks like in the world that you're facing? These ideological games, playing this mess like we did with Hong Kong and the NBA, that shit ain't gonna go nowhere. Are you crazy? The Chinese are literally the most organized, evolved people. I mean, I don't know if we've ever seen anything like this in world history, even beyond the damn Nile River and the Egyptians, because they were never able to civilize the entire continent in a way that 1.4 billion people are in mental, emotional, and spiritual agreement with one another. I don't understand what your point is. I don't understand what you think you're going to accomplish by we got to hold on to what America was. And that America never was anything that most nations wanted to be. It's just a story that you've told yourself and you've convinced yourself is real.